Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We are here with Patty Nickel of Orogen Royalties. He is the CEO. Orogen is a prospect and royalty generator for precious and base metal discoveries in Western North America. The company's royalty portfolio includes the Ermitano project, and it also includes the Silicon Gold project, one of the largest gold discoveries in Nevada. Patty, thank you for your time, and thank you too for your efforts on behalf of shareholders such as myself and the viewers of this channel.
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Okay, start off, tell us your story, how you got involved in the business, and how you started up Orogen Royalties.
Well, good question. I was one of the founders of the predecessor companies that formed Orogen. It was started back in 2010, and a company you may recall was called Evrim Resources. And the prospect generation business model, which I think you and probably a lot of your viewers are familiar with, is taking early stage projects and joint venturing them out to prospective exploration partners. And through those efforts, we get cash payments and share payments, and we create royalties. And through our efforts in Mexico, we had a discovery called Ermitano. It was a project that we had sold on to First Majestic Silver, one of the largest silver operators in the country there. And so that was done in 2016. And so as that asset developed, we saw an opportunity to use the Ermitano asset, the royalty asset, is a leverage to go and look at other assets in the marketplace. And so in 2020, we merged with a company called Renaissance Gold, also another prospect generator, that was more focused in Nevada. And they themselves had come onto a project called what's now called Expanded Silicon. Back then it was known as the Silicon Project. And they had partnered it with AngloGold Ashanti, who is one of the larger gold producers in the world. And so we put the two companies together with the idea that we would form not just a prospect generation company, but an organic royalty company. And so there is a bit of a differentiation when we talk about organic royalty creation. And so when you look at other royalty companies, most of the royalty companies out there in the royalty space, a lot of them purchase their royalties on existing projects. We generally don't do that. Our royalties are created off at the ends of all the option deals or project sales that we do. And so in that regard, our portfolio has been created organically. And with that, I mean, there's a bit of a gestation period between generating the project, having a deal done, and then seeing the royalty come into fruition. But we've done it twice now. And so it's been an exciting time for the company, especially with respect to our two flagship assets that we've got. And so now we're a cash flowing royalty company. We have Ermitano, which is generating some great cash flow. It makes us profitable. We've been profitable since 2021. And then we have the big exciting project, which you just mentioned, is Silicon, or Expanded Silicon, which is now 13.3 million ounces and growing with AngloGold Ashanti. And that's a very exciting time for us.
Yes.
So that's sort of the whole sort of history of the company, a bit of a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is? Let's go over the basics. So the financial fundamentals: market cap, debt, cash,
sure.
Enterprise value.
210 million market cap.
Okay.
That's based on 201 million shares outstanding.
Okay.
We have no warrants outstanding or anything like that. We have approximately $20 to $21 million Canadian in the bank. We have no debt, so we're pretty clean in that regard. So that's one of the differentiators with us and other royalty companies, especially at the junior level, that we did not take on debt to pick up our royalty portfolio. As I mentioned earlier, we've generated them organically. Sorry, what are some of the other questions on the corporate structure?
So these numbers are Canadian?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
correct.
So that would be 150, 160 American.
Correct. Sorry,
okay.
I should have calculated.
No, it's okay. Yeah, most of our audience is from
America.
America.
Yeah.
Okay. And no debt.
No debt.
And cash in the bank, you said?
It's about 21 million.
21, so
Canadian, so about
15,
16 million. Yeah, Canadian. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll convert going forward here. So
okay, all right.
US dollars going forward.
I can let the dusting of autism do it for you, or you can do it, whichever one you want. Okay, so you've got that. Enterprise value then would be about 130 or so. A little bit more than that.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, our market cap probably in terms of US dollars about 160 million market cap, and then it's about 145 million.
Okay, minus the 15 in cash. Okay.
EV value.
And tell us basically about the business model of prospect generation and royalty generation. Like how does it mechanically work?
Yep. So our team is still, I mean, our focus is still prospect generation. Even though we have a look of a royalty company, and we are a royalty company, it's all based on prospect generation. So the team is largely geologists. We have geological teams in Mexico, Nevada, up in British Columbia, and in Canada. And so our team spends a lot of time, we're very data-driven on boots on the ground, trying to identify early stage projects. We try to stake our own or acquire our own projects through staking or other means, as opposed to doing third-party deals. So the projects are very clean. There's no underlying agreements attached to them, and so we do that, and then we find exploration partners. And that in and of itself, it's a bit of a involved process because we're asking a team to find an idea, and then we've got another team that tries to sell that idea onto an exploration partner. And so our partnerships, I guess if you will, are either with private companies, small-scale juniors, and we go right up to the largest mining companies in the world. So we kind of cover the spectrum of the mining industry when we're looking for partners. And so the deals are structured on cash payments, share payments, but we always clip the royalty. That's the most important part because that is the key part of the agreement or the key part of the transaction, if you will, that provides the biggest amount of value creation leverage if there is a discovery.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is the most important thing. So structuring those royalties in every deal that we do is the most important part of that deal. And so all the joint ventures that we've got today, we have 8 that are active, all have that royalty structure to it. And all the deals that we've done over the past few years have that same structure. And so that's allowed us to grow our portfolio to 25 royalties, and of that, 21 are generated organically.
Okay.
And so we have a few that aren't. We do on occasion go out and buy royalties, but largely they are generated through the prospect generation business. And so the prospect generation business in of itself is profitable. So the teams that we have, we go out and we'll invest $100,000 to $200,000 per project. We don't drill projects, we identify exploration targets or drill targets, and so that's where we get the project level too. We're mitigating our risk by getting to that stage. We don't drill projects because that is the riskiest part of the process. And so we let somebody come in. Obviously, they get a significant portion or 100% of the project for taking that risk on, but they take, pardon me, they take on the risk. They do the exploration expenditures. And so it allows us to do this many times as opposed to one single asset focus, which for a lot of companies out there, they'll focus on one project, right? We don't do that. We'll focus on as many as we can. So the cliche is kind of like buying a lottery ticket, if you will. And so we have a bunch of lottery tickets out there, and any one of them can be the next major discovery. Yeah. And so that's how we do the prospect generation business. For the investments that we make into those projects, again, I mentioned around the $100,000 to $200,000 range. We will either sell them for somewhere between $300,000 to $500,000, or we option them out, which is more of an earn-in, staged earn-in, or an earn-in over a 3 to 4 year period, where the company can earn the project a little bit differently, but they earn it that way. So those are the 2 different deal structures that we work on. But that has meant, for us at least, that we've been the prospect generation team is profitable on its own. The royalty revenue that comes in is paying for the rest of the company, and as I mentioned earlier, we've been making money for the past 3 years now.
Okay. Yeah. And so you get that, or you get either resell it for a higher price, or you get the royalty out of the asset.
Exactly, and then so that's the one aspect of the business, and then there's the royalty side of the business where we do, as I mentioned earlier, we pick up the occasional royalty. You won't see us in the bidding processes like some of the other royalty companies get involved in. It's just it's very expensive. It's very competitive. Yeah. Our cost of capital historically has been very high. We didn't want to issue either shares or take on significant amounts of expensive debt. Yeah. So we stayed out of that arena, which has been, I think, fortuitous for us. So instead, we have a great geological team, as I mentioned. They can spot very good projects that we don't have an involvement in, but if we can sometimes clip the royalty that's attached to that project, that's where we've been successful. And so the past couple of years, we bought 3 royalties in Western Kenya, which are kind of interesting. a gold belt in Western Kenya called Kakamega, and then last year we bought a neat copper royalty called Larica, which is in the Mande Batholith in northern Colombia. And so we're excited for both of those projects. But again, our investments in those things are pretty nominal when you compare it to some of the other royalty acquisitions that you see out in the market today.
And most of it's work on your part, not necessarily putting money in.
Yeah, exactly. We do the investigation. We do the research, the analysis, and yeah, I mean, there's always risk. The earlier stage that is, the higher the risk is. Yeah. But we're not laying out capital that would kill the company either if it didn't work out. Yeah. So that's there's a trade-off there.
Yeah. Sweat equity. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's talk about your team.
Yeah.
So tell us about the team that you built and how they're.
Well, the team is it's interesting because we merged two companies in 2020, and it's always sort of this, the culture of change management is always interesting. But what was interesting is that we had a really good group of like-minded individuals who believed in the business model of what we were doing, and that continues through to this day. So especially on the exploration side, we have a great young VP, Lawrence Pryor, who kind of manages the team and makes sure everything's running smoothly. We've got a fantastic group down in Reno, Mark Kulba, who is our chief geoscientist, who was one of the key contributors to the development of the Silicon project in its infancy. It was his kernel of the idea that created Silicon. Obviously, Angelo Deshanti put in the drilling and made the discovery, but it was his thought process in the first place that actually created the project. So that's really cool.
We have him to thank for the doubling.
Indeed, indeed. But it's really neat to see. So we're using his insight and the technology. We do have a bit of a proprietary technology in identifying new targets today, new silicon type targets today. So he's front and center. And then in British Columbia, we have a great guy named Mark Backness. He's actually a consultant for us, more porphyry related expertise in targeting and exploration. So he's great in BC. And then down in Mexico, we have Ignacio Camarena, who was a part of the group that created the Ermitano project way back when. And then we have one other young fella, Eli Turner. He's a great young geologist, super sharp. Lots of good things to say about him, and lots of good comments from our partners about him too. So he's a bit of a rising star, that guy. So yeah, we have a great team. And then in Vancouver, we have an admin group. We have my CFO, Mark Tran, great guy, very focused on tax savings, because now that we're a royalty company, we have these issues of taxes, and we have tax losses from our exploration days, so we're always trying to use that to somewhat mitigate our tax exposure. So he's front and center on that. And then Marco Lacascio is our VP of Corp Dev, came out of the investment industries, and so he's very well connected to banking groups, investor groups, and very well-spoken individual and very knowledgeable about the business.
Okay.
And that's largely us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many employees was that total?
I think that's 8. There's a couple I missed.
Okay.
Yeah, our corporate secretary, Rosanna Batista, and one of our support assistants as well is Saki Tomatsu. Okay. So yeah, so that's the group 10.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah. So we're pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We're again mostly geologists. We're very technically inclined. And that's how it should be.
Okay, and what's your cash flow as far as what are you bringing in? And,
so the gross outlay, I think, each year in budgets is around $4 million.
Okay.
We recover a bunch of that through some of the alliance work we do and our partnerships that we do. We farm out groups to do various bits and pieces of work on behalf of the joint ventures. So we can recover anywhere from 15 to 20% of that in a given year.
Okay.
Our cash flow, our coming from our operations, is probably for the royalties alone, is about $5 to $6 million a year. Sorry, I'm Canadian dollars. I can't convert these so quick. Okay. So sorry, I should have converted that.
No, it's okay.
Anyways, and then from the prospect generation business, it can range $1.5 to $2 million a year. So we're somewhere between $7 to $8.5 million Canadian a year.
Okay.
And that kind of keeps us sort of profitable.
Okay.
And so the treasury since 2021 has been growing.
Okay. And G&A costs?
No, that was sort
That
of
was
all in the
calculated.
4 million. That's all in the exploration related G&A. That's about 4.2 to 3 this year will be.
Okay.
So
All right. And let's go over your jurisdictions. So we talked about, we got Ermitano down in Mexico.
Yep.
We got Silicon in
Nevada.
You mentioned Kenya. Where else on the globe are we investing?
So from a prospect generation perspective, we will solely stick within Western North America. Our team will not leave beyond that. That's our bread and butter. It's where our expertise lies. To start to spread our wings a bit into a lot of different jurisdictions gets expensive.
Yeah.
You need to bolt on extra expertise to do that, and not only just technical expertise. There's the administrative, legal support costs. So we understand Western North America very well. It's all in one time zone too, which is very handy.
Yeah.
So we continue to stay there for now. Things have changed a lot in Mexico, as I'm sure you've probably heard,
Yes.
with respect to the mining laws. So prospect generation for us is a lot less these days. We're focusing more in on Nevada and British Columbia. It's a shame. Mexico's a fantastic place to explore. We love it down there, but just and so the investment dollars that we've had down there over the years, we're not doing anymore. And so we've put it now into Nevada and sort of the states close to Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming, those areas, and then also into British Columbia. So that's where the boots on the ground team is. And then with respect to royalty acquisitions, we'll look anywhere. As long as there is a reason to find a good royalty and it's geopolitically the right place to be, the project is right, the operator is right, then we will take that chance. And so, yes, going into Western Kenya, there is some risk there on the geopolitical spectrum. There's risk in Colombia, obviously, too.
Yeah.
But look, things have gotten a lot better in Colombia over the past 9-10 years. Things are getting a lot better in Western Kenya, too. It's actually a fairly stable economy. And so we like the chances of being in those areas. And again, the investment into these things is not huge. It won't kill us.
Yeah.
So there is an element of, you pay, but you're taking on that risk, but you're paying a pretty low investment or entry cost to get involved. And we think those risks are worth it.
Okay.
So we would, I should say we also have a few royalties in Argentina as well, which over the past couple of years has gotten a lot better now.
Yeah.
So, we really like Argentina, and the companies that are down there are now getting funding again. And so, look, we've got 3 royalties in there, and hopefully things would pan out there. So, yeah, we'll look anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited. I interviewed Doug Casey recently, and he lives down in Argentina. And I'm very excited to see what happens with that social experiment with Malay.
Yes.
That I feel like every government needs a leader like that. Just let go 90% of government employees and see what happens. Okay, let's go into Ermitano. Mm-hmm. So that one's operated by First Majestic.
Yep.
Mine life, cash flow, give us the basics.
Sure. I mentioned earlier that it's providing us somewhere between $5 to $6 million of cash flow Canadian, so 4x of US a year.
4.3 or something.
Yeah, okay. US a year. It is a 2% net smelter return royalty. The initial ounces or resources that were stated in as 2021 was about 1 million ounces of gold equivalent, and so there was a silver component in there alongside the gold. That was only based on proven and probable or M&I resources. There was a fairly large inferred component that obviously was not included in the mine plan for the reasons that it's not an M&I resource.
Yeah.
So past 3 years of production, they have taken, the initial mine life was 7 years, so they've taken about 3 years of mine life away from that. What they have done is they've now started to convert inferred resources, which weren't originally in the mine plan, into the operation. And so we're still kind of at that 6 to 7 year mine life. And so that's encouraging to see that the inferred is successfully getting converted into mineable resources. And so that's important. So that's the first thing about Ermitano. And they're producing somewhere between, I think, 80 to 100,000 ounces of gold a year, gold equivalent. And so that, obviously, 2% of that is what we get.
That's
and
nice.
Pick your gold price, and there you go. So that's been very helpful. With respect to the mine complex and the surrounding area, our royalty AOI is actually 170 square kilometers. So it's pretty substantial. So it's not just the mine complex or the mine, it's actually a whole area. And that was one of the big things when we sold the project, that it's quite large. And so within the project, from the days that we had it, we know there's several targets, Durazno, Veta Valentina. There was a new zone called Luna that was discovered right when the mine went into production, and so that, is starting to be included into the inferred resources now. So that again in itself will add mine life, and so we don't see this as just sort of a 7-year operation. We actually see this as something much longer. And if you look at what First Majestic's done, look, they've done a fantastic job at what they call the Santa Elena mine area. There's a mill called Santa Elena. Yeah. Ermitano is actually a satellite deposit to that mill. They've put in a fair bit of investment. They built an LNG plant that now switched off the diesel power, and now they're on natural gas power. They put a new high-intensity grinding circuit into the mill. They also put in it's a press. I'm not a geologist, so I can't give you the strict terms, or I'm not an engineer either. But it improves recoveries of the mine, of the ore going through the mill. And so none of these things are insignificant investments. So they're building for the future. And so that's really nice to see. And so we expect that this to be sort of a longer lived thing than just the 7 years. So that's kind of Ermitano in a nutshell. First Majestic, they come out with sort of semi-annual updates on the project, so we get to see what's going on. We have audit rights in our royalty agreement too, so if at any time we wanted to go in and investigate a little bit deeper, we did that in the beginning of the mine. But look, they're doing a great job, and we really like what's going on down there.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's talk the same about Silicon project. So this is the one that has really woken up the market. Yeah. Just absolutely, just a boss of a deposit, 13.1 million ounces. Yeah, what? Tell us about it.
So yeah, this was, again, you look at the Renaissance team from 2014. They had seen an opportunity. They acquired the ground, what's largely now our area of influence or interest, where our 1% NSR royalty sits. They optioned it to Anglo Gold. They put the first drill holes in 2017. There was a discovery hole, and since then they've drilled 300,000 meters into those two deposits, both Silicon and Merlin. So it's a staggering amount of drilling. Yeah. Last year they had 10 plus 12 rigs type thing turning on the projects, and so it's amazing. It's amazing to see. So with that in mind, they were pretty quiet the first couple of years, and when we were merging with Renaissance, they disclosed nothing, no drill holes. You could only drive out of the project, and you could look across and see it, because there was a public road nearby. You could see that there was a number of rigs turning, so you knew something was going on. Yeah. But you didn't know exactly what. Yeah. So they finally started to come out with news probably 2.5 years ago now, and they focused on Silicon first, and that was the initial resource was about 3.2 million ounces. Last was 2023, they came out with a 4.2 million ounce resource on Silicon. Again, they grew it, which was nice to see, and a lot of that got moved into indicated. These are all oxide resources too. This is not sulfide, so that's that in of itself is very important. Good. Yeah, it's very good. And then last August, they started to talk about Merlin, and Merlin was discovered, I think, in 2020, right when we did the merger, and we knew that there was a couple rigs down there, but we had no idea. And I don't think they did either, how big it was going to be. And so since then, they've outlined, August, they outlined a 6 to 8 million ounce exploration target, which was strange because it's not a resource and you can't call it anything but a target, but they kind of put this 6 to 8 million ounces on it. And then they finally got to a stage where they could get the drilling density to call it an inferred resource. And so they came out with this 9.1 million ounce resource, which was inferred resource, which is, for an inferred resource, an initial maiden resource, it's incredible. Yeah. And so, they continue to drill on it now. They have initiated a pre-feasibility study, but my guess is that pre-feasibility study, as time goes on, will change because they're still defining the extents of Merlin, and even Silicon for that matter. They've got 4 key exploration targets they're drilling on right now. They had identified this back in their Q1 release. They had there's a 20F report. You can find it on Edgar on the Edgar website. If you dig deep enough, it's there. And look, they're drilling on those now. They're coming out next month with their next quarterly update, financial update. But they typically add, what we notice now, that every quarter they add something about silicon. So I don't know what it's going to be, but my guess is that we'll see another couple of twists in this yet before we actually understand the full extent of what's there. So even last update they talked about a water hole for hydrogeological studies that they'd done. 900 meters to the north of Silicon, and they said it was a significant gold intercept. They didn't have any grades, no intervals, nothing, but they said it was significant gold. So, we don't know what these mean. So we do live vicariously through their public disclosure, which is, it's cool, but we're always trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So it is fun to watch, for sure. And as you say, it's huge. This is a generational asset, and these discoveries don't come on that often or anywhere else for that matter, but the fact that we have this 1% royalty on it, it's incredible. And it's one of those royalties now that you look at it and you put it alongside other royalties out there in the space. There's just nothing like it today. That at this stage of development, that it's in its infancy still, it hasn't even started production. So it's really exciting to have the asset and to watch it grow. Yeah.
Okay, so 13.3 million ounces, it's looks like it's inevitably going to grow. Put that into perspective as far as what's the average size gold deposit?
Well, if you look at the Walker Lane as an example, I think the historical experience was kind of 1 to 3 million ounces. Like the Bullfrog District itself, the Bullfrog mine, which is not far away from where this is, was I think it was a 3 million ounce producer, Homestake and then Barrick had it. So the expectation that when we first did the merger, we thought, well, this is what it probably is. And look, now it's gone on to become something different.
That's seven times that or something.
And it's deeper down. I mean, there is a depth component to it, and the stripping ratio is going to be higher, but they've got the size. And so once they've released some production information. Obviously, it's preliminary. So you've got to take whatever they're producing, with an understanding that things might change as time goes on. But the initial idea was to do 2 years of pre-strip. Annual average production, I think, is somewhere in the range of 600,000 to 700,000 ounces a year.
Oh, wow.
With the first 2 years, the first year that it actually produces gold would be 1 million ounces of contained gold. Year 2 is 1.8 million ounces. And they just don't see mining operations around the planet, they have that type of production profile, at least in 2 years. And this only includes Merlin. We're not talking about silicon. So we don't know how that factors into the production schedule yet either. So all these are bits and pieces that we're trying to understand. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're living vicariously through Anglo. So it's trying to catch up to what they're doing. But they're doing amazing work. It's a lot. I can only imagine what it's like to have 10 to 12 rigs turning, and not only that, the permitting issues or the permitting work, environmental work they're all doing. It must be a huge undertaking.
And so how much is this costing Orogen for them to drill all this?
That's the beauty of the model,
right?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's the beauty of it. Okay. Any timelines as far as when they're going to stop drilling and start building?
No timelines when they're stopping drilling. They have indicated somewhere between, I think, we kind of think 2030 is probably when they might start production. They're going to start production next year. At least that's what they're saying on what's called the North Bullfrog deposit. We don't have a royalty on that, but it's about 15 kilometers northwest of our royalty AOI. And so that's what they've used as sort of the initial sort of, I guess, anchor in the district, is that that'll be their first point of production, and then they will use that and then move into Silicon and Merlin as time goes on. But Bullfrog is a much smaller. I think it's under 1 million ounces. So it'll give them some years of mine life, and they'll probably operate it somewhere between 100,000 ounces a year plus type of thing. But once Silicon and Merlin come in, that's when the things really start to kick up.
And how are you going to make investors money in the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, with our biggest asset, Silicon, I do not believe we've seen the final piece of that.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous amount of growth potential that still lies within that asset. You know, how much bigger it could get, I don't know. Are there camps much bigger than that in Nevada? Yes. And could it get to those big-sized camps? Possibly. So we see that there's tremendous potential for Silicon, and that's obviously going to have a positive effect for shareholders and the growth of our share price. You know, Ermitano's there's lots of opportunity. It provides a tremendous amount of stability, but as I mentioned earlier, there's a big royalty AOI. They're finding new zones. They're trying to add more ounces to the mine plan, and so that's always going to create a good stable amount of value for us. So the downside risk is actually pretty low. And then you go back to the prospect generation business, and as I mentioned before, it's that lottery ticket type of situation where you've got 8 joint ventures, you've got a portfolio of royalties, you know, outside of the flagship asset, you still got 19, 20 royalties that are being explored. So any one of those royalties or actively explored projects in the JV side could become the next value creation in the stool. And we love some of the projects that we've got. It just takes one drill hole, right? And look, there is some interesting ones in there already. We've got the Spring Peak project in Nevada that's being drilled by Headwater Gold. They're putting in 7,000 meters this year. The Kodiak Copper Group in south central BC is drilling what's called the MPD and the MPD South project. They've got 10,000 meters planned there. We have a 2% royalty on that. So all these projects I'm talking about, we've got royalty exposure. Yeah. And those are bona fide discoveries already. It's just, can they get tonnage together? Can they get grade together to make it actually economic? And so those are the things that we're watching very closely. And then we've got these outliers like Larica in Colombia that it's a tremendous copper porphyry target. If that hits, at one point it'll be drilled. In my opinion, it'll be drilled to maybe next year or something. But once that comes, and if it does turn out to be successful, then you've got a tremendous value creator in that royalty. So that's where you see. So there is a bit of a patience to this. Yeah. We're not the type of company that's going to, you know, have the next killer drill hole tomorrow that drives the share price. This has been a long and patient development process that creates value, I would say, more accretively than just a quick discovery or a single asset focus type thing. So there is a bit of patience to it, but it's always been with the projection of going higher.
Yeah. And how are you and everyone else on the team paid? Do you have shares?
Yeah, we're all shareholders.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my life.
Okay.
I've been doing it for 15 years now. So everything that's in this is for me. So I've got a big share position. We toiled through the tough times, and years we took pay cuts, years we allowed ourselves to earn a bit more. Now they're on a stable footing. We're doing much better now. We're all compensated through stock options. We have RSUs as well, and shares that we've purchased in the open market, and a lot of us have purchased shares in the open market over the past several years.
Okay, and about 75% of this is free float available to retail, correct? And
I would say half.
Half is available.
Yeah, I would say
retail?
half. Look, Altius Minerals, you know,
Okay.
Altius,
Yeah.
larger diversified royalty company. They're amazing supporters of the business. They own 18.5% of us.
Okay.
So they're believers in what we do.
Yeah.
Adrian Day, I think you know Adrian.
Yep.
His group, whether through his fund or his clients, I believe they own about 16.5% of us.
Okay.
The Sprott Group, which is Rick's old shop,
Yep.
they hold around 10% of us.
Okay.
And there's a couple other individuals who I won't name that probably own somewhere between 10 to 12% of us as well. So,
okay.
So that group is in very tight hands, the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is a float out there, so roughly half the company, I would say is available for shareholders. So.
Okay. So this isn't going to get, there's not going to be a takeover or something with those guys having half the juice. Okay.
No.
All right. Let's see. What's the biggest unanswered question surrounding Orogen?
Look, a lot of people ask me, are you going to get taken out? That's probably the biggest question I get. Or is somebody going to buy you up? Silicon, as I mentioned, we've talked about it, and I think hopefully your viewers get the sense of how big this thing is and the quality of the asset. Silicon tier 1 jurisdiction, tier 1 size, tier 1 operator. It doesn't get any better than this. Like, Nevada is like the best place to be, to have a royalty. And this is a big one, and you've got Anglo Gold Ashanti. So, look, it is obviously a royalty that is, if you looked at a history of transactions over the past 15 years, Silicon would rank up there as one of the top ones. Yeah. It just, that's where it's at. And so the royalty space, as competitive as it is, bigger companies would want this royalty. And so a lot of people ask, they say, well, are you going to get taken out? And the best thing I can say today is that, look, we like what we've got. We want to continue to build the company. There's no question. We can use Silicon as a tremendous platform to really build something really special out of this. And we got the business model to do it. But look, if somebody comes in and with a substantial offer, we have to look at that. I mean, shareholders, this is a tough business, and people want exit strategies, right? And we have to pay attention to those cues when they come in. And so I think we'd be negligent if we ignored those. So if one came in that was good, and it has to be very special, a price, we would consider we'd have to consider it at that point. And that comes down to my board taking a close look at it, but also it gets put to vote for shareholders, right? And they get to decide on which way it goes. But that's kind of the biggest, I would say, unanswered question that's out there today. And so I can't give a lot of clarity on it, but we do have, but that's probably the best way I can explain it today.
Okay, all right. What could go wrong? What are some potential headwinds? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Look, Ermitano shuts down.
Okay.
That's a risk.
Mexico's a risk?
Mexico's a risk.
Yeah.
We're a single asset royalty producing company. Mm-hmm. That's a risk. Silicon, for whatever reason, there's permitting risk, environmental risk. So those things can come out of left field, and you're exposed, right? And you've seen some of that happen with some of the royalty companies around, the world, that they have good assets and they're producing well for them, and then boom, something. I mean, look at Victoria Gold here last week. Their tailings leach pad breach. Yeah. So that's very unfortunate, but it not only affects the mining company, but the royalty company, because suddenly it's a stream of revenue that's not there anymore. Yeah. And so those types of things can happen. And so there is those sorts of downside risks that do occur. But being a royalty holder, your risks are somewhat mitigated by the fact that you're not mining operations. That you're just more of a passive holder. But still, it stings when suddenly your cash flow stops running. Yeah. But we do have $21 million in the bank, so if anything was to ever happen, there is that safeguard in place, and we do watch our pennies carefully. So there is, we try to have some sort of risk mitigation set up ahead of time if something were to occur. But those are the primary downside risks I see it today. Okay, all right. Any final thoughts? How can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more? Yeah, please come visit our website, www.originroyalties.com. You can email me, Paddy, it's P-A-D-D-Y, not T-T-Y, D-D-Y. A lot of people get that wrong sometimes, but DDY at originroyalties.com. And I'm looking forward to answering any questions people have. Okay, there'll be a link down in the notes below. Good stuff. Paddy, thank you very much. I wish you all the success in the world. We are literally betting on it. Yeah, no, thanks very much. Appreciate being here. Yes, thanks for having me. Pleasure's on this side of the table. Yeah. And thank you for tuning in. Support the show and share this with anyone that you think needs to hear it. It's probably your buddy that can't stop talking about tech stocks. You have yourself a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you next time.